Your device has to be unique to you. At that moment the variables are infinite. It has to do with quantum entanglements. If we see it in a microscope we would see a chain of How are you doing? Greetings to all. Now I wanted to continue with these videos with which I resumed the channel last year, about explaining in depth the Metayantra pranic devices. We have pending a video about the cosmic sensor, and we are preparing it. In fact, I am resuming the reading of Flanagan. There is a lot of information that must be synthesized. It's not that easy, it's not that simple, to give worthwhile information. I could just get a lot into esotericism and beliefs, but as you know I like to substantiate everything scientifically. The third element that we need is the resin. We had already defined the quartz and the metal coil, which are the main elements too. All three are important. Without any of them you could not achieve the effect we are looking for, and the resin is a polymer. But there are many polymers and many types of resins. You do not have to use exactly the resin we are using, but it has to meet certain characteristics. We use a resin called crystal resin, PP crystal resin, which is a polymer or an unsaturated polyester. There are many types of polyester and I am not going to focus on defining all of them. Rather I'm going to define the properties of the polymer we are looking for. First, we need it to be an elastomer. What does it mean that it is an elastomer? That T has a certain elasticity and viscosity. Although it is solid, its intermolecular bonds aren't really that strong. They are weak, and it has a certain viscosity. Although it is a solid, just as glass it is fluid, this is a kind of viscous medium. It has a low Young module. It could be equivalent to an elastic module or tension module, and what it means is that if we force it, it tends to break. That is, if we subject it to mechanical stress, although it is an elastomer and is elastic and viscous, it gets to a point where it breaks. It's not flexible. It's elastic, viscous, but not flexible. Due to its molecular arrangement, we can classify it as a crystalline resin. This means that its molecular structure is made up of small chains called crystallites. That is what they are called. If we saw it under a microscope we would see an ordered chain of monomers, and it also means that it has a considerable percentage of contraction. The resin contracts. This requires having certain considerations, because if we make it dry very quickly, the deformation of the resin when it contracts can cause problems. The figure can look bad, or because of the fact of having quartz in the middle, which is not going to contract as quickly. It does contract, but it is more rigid than the resin. It is not an elastomer. This causes the resin breaks. Because of what we saw in the previous point, that it is not very good with mechanical tension. So if we add too much catalyst, that makes the reaction happen very quickly and the resin will even crack. There are also other implications for vibration that I will explain later. Due to its thermal behavior, we classify it as a thermophilic or thermostable polymer. This means that it does not melt. We cannot melt it as we could do with amber, for example, or with beeswax. It is insoluble. We cannot put it in water and make liquid again. It is made up of chains of molecules, and these chains are joined by very strong covalent bonds, which is also known as cross-linking, and which form a spatial three-dimensional macromolecule that when we heat the resin with the catalyst, what it does is compact more that three-dimensional macromolecule in space. When we pour a certain resin in volume, let's say a liter, then when it dries its volume is smaller, that molecule is compacted and becomes stronger. For that reason it becomes a solid. The chemical composition is derived from two monomers or units of the polymer that are defined with the formula that I show you here. There it is for you to see, and the carbon appears there. That is why it is organic, because it contains carbon. It comes from the condensation of a basic acid and a polyol with separation of water as a secondary effect. It dries, meaning that water is lost when combined. The reaction of this combination occurs at 150 or even 200 Celsius degrees. The temperature can be much higher, and that is when we have problems in gelling or drying, and it generates high molecular weight molecules. The molecules have more weight when they dry, and polyester resin has a contraction between 6 and 8%. I will put the contraction index here. It appears there, and this is what makes quartz work. The piezoelectric effect regarding the viscosity that we were talking about at the beginning of the video can be variable. We can vary it by putting up certain additives that we use. For example, cobalt, icosahedral crystals, iron oxide, bronze powder, photoluminescent pigments that store photons. All of them give more or less viscosity to the element. Each device presents a different viscosity index because of all the elements that it entails. If you see one with cobalt, bronze powder, and copper powder, Their viscosity is going to be higher because they have more contamination, let's say, or more elements, and more additives. Another additive that is widely used is the styrene monomer, which is used in amounts of 10, 20, or 30%. It helps us to make the resin look more crystalline and cleaner, and this is because we are also giving more viscosity to the resin, like more opening. It is not a much rigid macromolecule. The catalyst that we use is methylethyl ketone, which is very similar to acetone peroxide. It is a colorless liquid with a strong aroma, and what it does is precisely accelerate or heat the resin so that it contracts, and it also does that polyol, which element is added to the basic acid and it makes that chemical reaction. It is also an organic component, but it is less sensitive to temperature. If the resin is left alone in an oven, it will dry out, but the catalyst will not. The amounts of methylethyl ketone used are between 1 and 2.5% of the molecular weight of the resin that we are going to use. No more, because we can speed up the reaction much more. And well, knowing all this, what is the point? Why do we use this resin? Well, first, under the Wilhelm Reich fundamentals, we need a component that is organic, containing carbon, and an element that is inorganic, not containing carbon, which is metal in this case, and we need to make some tidy layers of resin and metal, as he did in his Orgonite accumulator that had a metal wall, a wool wall, and another metal wall, and another wool wall. Its organic component was the wool that served as the resin that we are using right now. I leave you a diagram here so that you can clearly see that we have the same scheme that he detailed in his book, where he defines the Orgonite accumulator, ordered layers of organic and inorganic components, and the reason why. They are orgone energy filters. We will deal with this issue later. It is a bit more complex and implies other types of considerations, since it is filtering and making some kind of accumulation of vital energy, the energy that we can also define from the dark energy. We will also talk about that topic later. We also need it to be a polymer because the glass has a vibration. What the vibration does is what we can see in the video that I leave you here. What you see is dust, and it is getting a vibration on it, and the dust settles depending on the sound that is being produced. It is the same with quartz. It has a vibration, and the resin, being a polymer that accommodates itself molecularly, copies the vibration of quartz. So what happens is that all this has the composition of the quartz together with the alteration of the metal, because in the metals the quartz is also being activated by the coil, by the magnetic field. I leave you the video where I talk about it here. What is happening is an amplification of the power of quartz, and it is also copying the resonance structure of quartz, its vibration. We don't necessarily have to put frequencies on it. It can be done, but the sound is hardly going to modify its molecular structure. We would have to put it very loud so that it really modifies the molecular structure. What matters is that the quartz is natural, which could, yes, have been cured with a certain frequency, certain energy, and already having a vibration. Then it is placed in the resin together with the metal that activates it. By putting the coil together with the quartz, all the resin that around has that vibration, just like the video you have here. The dust by itself has no structure, but when vibration is added, it has a harmonic and geometric arrangement. There we could also talk about sacred geometry. The DNA in our body is a polymer. It has exactly the same molecular function. Each device will have a different molecular arrangement of the polymer. None will be the same as the other. Because of the quartz it has, the size of the quartz, that none will be exactly the same. But if it is going to have the same intention, of course, and because of the wire that it carries, the amount of resin that is put on it, the additive that is put on it, everything has certain variations that even if we have another model equal to this one here and has the same function, the same main vibration, the same intention, each one is different. It is the same as DNA. I am the same as another human being. I can be very similar to my brother, for example, but there are certain variations. Everyone has their essence. The resin is the DNA of the device. It is that important. It defines the end. It is the last process in the manufacture of the device that gives it the last touch. I would say it like this: you are this. And it's done it. That's why we don't do mass production. We don't produce thousands of devices and have them in stock to ship. Because I do believe, more than in destiny, I believe in synchronicities and coincidence. At the moment in which you launch an intention to do something or to modify something in your life, to work on something, and for some reason you go to the store, you buy that device, at that moment that intention is like the archer for me. You are the archer and the intention is the arrow, and let's say that your objective is the target where the arrow has to arrive. The arrow already goes with your intention. You already launched it, and at that moment with that force and that energy it comes to us and we start the production of the device. If we had it already done, there would not be a flow in connection with you of you having requested a certain intention, connected with the device. and made the order, in the moment that it is manufactured. Even if we don't have your name or we don't know who you are, there is already an energy and an intention that you launched into the universe to do something, to coincide with you, and then that device is unique for you. There is no other like it, none will be the same. That is the kind of magic that we want to deliver, which is not magic itself. It has to do with quantum entanglement, with the subconscious and the creation of reality, synchronicity, dimensional planes. All of that is united here in your purchase process and our manufacturing. It has a linear flow until it reaches you, and then let's say it adapts. It was created for you, at least in the resin. The quartz may already be there because it was extracted from the earth. It arrived at a store. We grab it and do not modify it at all. Perhaps we put a certain frequency on it to give it an intention, and we take it to such place, and that's it. But it already exists. The metal wire. Okay, yes, it is our creation, and there are a certain number of turns, and certain number of points. They are all the same. But at the moment we pour the resin, at that moment the variables are infinite, because all of the elements, the wire, the exact arrangement of the quartz, its size and location, and the amount of resin, the amount of additives that we put in it, because calculating it to the millimeter is impossible. That is, they are atomic things. Calculating, like, let's say, okay, put 100 more atoms of bronze powder. There is no way we put 100 grams on it. But for one more atom, its structure has already changed, its DNA has already changed, and that is just how we are. There is no one like you. You are unique, and so your device has to be unique for you. And well, I hope that the theme of the resin has been clear. It is very simple, but it has many implications. Any questions or comments, please put them here below. Thanks a lot. Do not forget to follow us, subscribe to the channel, and activate notifications. Thank you for watching this video, and we look forward to seeing you.